Alright, y'all, we are back with another video, and in this one we're gonna cover how Nolan became the Viltromite Emperor in like a day, which covers issues 101 and 102. And before we do any of that, make sure that you like and subscribe. I repeat, like and subscribe. Now kick off your shoes and let's go. Okay, we last left off on issue 91 when Thragg was trying to kill Mark because he found out he was the heir to Argyle, and since then a lot has happened. Mark lost his powers and got him back. We found out what happened with Robot and Monster Girl. Bulletproof and his old lady killed his parents. Dinosaurs pretended to kill Invincible and damn near destroyed the world. Ancient Libra randomly popped up. Nolan and Debbie come back to Earth, and Mark killed dinosaurs. And with that being said, let's go ahead and hop into issue 101. Alright, chapter 101 opens up at the Viltromite base on the moon, and Thragg ain't too happy with his fellow Viltromites, telling them that their behavior sucks and is unacceptable and how much they disgust him, reminding them of their reason for being on Earth in the first place. He gets on Anissa for not wanting to procreate, Creed for meddling with human affairs, and Lucan for being too loyal to one woman. Anissa reminds Thragg that she never wanted to have kids in the first place and that she's not like her counterparts and that's not easy for her to do. General Creed explains that he was just protecting his woman and kids like a real man should and how he can't let anything happen to them, while Lucan explains that he doesn't want to cheat on his woman because she's been hurt in the past and he cares for her and he don't want to be the next person to do that to her. Before Thragg screams out of anger and questions them about being so affectionate for lesser beings since they should be used as breeding cattle. Anissa agrees with Thragg, but Lucan and Creed feel otherwise, and Lucan tells Thragg that he's missing out. He gets in his feelings while explaining and tells Thragg that it's different when you have someone who actually cares for you and form a bond, and Creed agrees, telling Thragg that this feeling changes them. But Thragg ain't trying to hear none of that and gets pissed and tell everyone to get the hell out of his sight while he figures out how to punish him. Back to Mark and Eve, we see that Mark has found out that Eve is pregnant again and tells her that he's ready and willing to do whatever he has to do in order to support her, even in whatever decision she decides to make. But she quickly lets Mark know that she can never go through with another decision like an abortion again, and the two make it official that they're going to have a baby. They continue to share their moment all hugged up, lovey-dovey and whatnot, until things start to get a little awkward as their reality starts to set in. And Mark is like, hold up. How did this happen considering the fact that they've been using protection the whole time? But Eve reminds Mark that Viltromites are built different and so is his male jelly. The two of them decide to keep their news secret from everybody and head downstairs before Debbie's mind goes in the gutter. Joke's on them though, they walk in on Debbie locking lips and busting slides with Omni-Man, meanwhile he grabbing a handful of them cakes. Debbie seems surprised but explains that she's still getting used to being back on Earth, and Nolan asks if everything's okay, and Mark and Eve is like yeah, but Nolan like nah, something don't seem right judging by the look of their place, in which Eve starts to fix it up. Moving on, we see a damaged city caused by dinosaurs, and some random guy holding a fish who recognizes the Immortal flying down next to him. Robot quickly greets the Immortal and asks if he's coming out of retirement, but he just responds saying that he'll help any way that he can. Robot says that he's fine, but asks if he can assist the other team. He names a few of the team's members, but Immortal is so lost and doesn't know what or who Robot is talking about because he's been out for so long. The Immortal flies off and Invincible pops up, asking where he could be useful and explains that Cecil told him that they could use his help, but Robot gets confused and asks Mark why is he here, with Mark responding that he's just here to clean up, but old Robot still thought he was dead from his fight with dinosaurs and says that he shouldn't be here after what Mark has done and punches him to the ground, reminding Mark that he let dinosaurs go and all this is his fault, and he ain't lying. But Eve comes over and starts to defend Mark, but Mark says he ain't tripping and tells her that he's got it, while Robot calls the Guardians to his location. Cecil steps in to defuse the situation and tells everybody to stand down and to head back to their positions. Mark starts to apologize and quickly takes it back once he's hit in the head with an exploding boomerang. Robot then starts to get on Cecil and assumes that he made a deal with Invincible, asking why would he even trust him knowing that he broke dinosaurs out of jail and over time caused this mess. But Cecil grabs Invincible and tells everyone that he'll sort things out later, leaving Robot pissed and in his feelings. Bulletproof steps in and tells Robot to calm down a bit because there are more important things to worry about at the moment. Robot stays in his feelings and continues to blame Mark for the current destruction, while Bulletproof seems to have had enough of Robot's hating and judgment and stands up for Mark, saying that he made a mistake and that it's hard for him to live with and to quit holding that against him, and in typical Bulletproof fashion, turns around and wraps his arm around Eve, and he then tells her not to worry and ignore everyone, and let me tell y'all real quick, Bulletproof think he's slick. Dude just don't care. Waited good and well till Invincible was out of sight to go hit on this girl. Now, back at the Pentagon, Cecil is apologizing to Mark about robot actions and tells him that he never got a chance to explain the situation to him. But Mark ain't tripping because he understands where Robot is coming from, and he then tells Cecil that Omni-Man is back, considering Robot's attitude as a heads up, and Cecil can't win for losing with these Viltrumites. Mark also tells Cecil that Eve is currently pregnant, in which Cecil agrees to help with the baby before they enter a secret room. They then enter a room with Dinosaurus' dead body, and Cecil asks Mark why did he want to see this. Mark said that he marked his 6th vertebrae just to make sure he's dead and didn't try any tricks like he did with Conquest that time. Cecil paused for a second because he didn't know that Mark knew about Conquest because he never brought it up. Mark tells him that he killed Conquest again, but never mentioned it because he didn't tell him about the Viltrumites coming to Earth and considered it even. And then he asks him if he could help with Nolan, in which Cecil agrees. We then fast forward to Mark a little bit after that, and Eve seems pissed at Mark for telling Cecil about her pregnancy. He comes in with a lady named Cher who's there to help her out, but Mark explains that they can't do this alone and that they need all the professional help that they can get. But Eve ain't feeling it and tells Mark that he could have gone to anybody else but Cecil, since this is the same government that killed her parents and made her. But Mark says that Cecil didn't do that and that the guy who did was hella evil and got killed anyway, with the little lady adding on that she's just an independent contractor who was recommended by Cecil and that she doesn't work for the government, while Mark co-signs her in the background. Shortly after, the lady Sherry puts Eve on the couch and uses her x-ray vision to check for the baby's health. She explains that Eve has a helpful medical history with the GDA and tells her how her powers work and how they affect the baby before immediately recommending that she doesn't use them anymore since her powers can rob the baby of his nutrients. Next, we see Cecil again, but this time with Nolan and Debbie at the old moon base for the Guardians of the Globe. Cecil starts the conversation off and tells Nolan that he knows he's not truly evil since he tried to take over the planet for like 3 seconds and couldn't do it, only to end up making up for it by doing nothing but good for the planet after that. But he was mad at his true intentions and that he hit him. Nolan also chimes in and says that he has many regrets, but asks Cecil's reason for bringing him there, with Cecil responding, reminding him of his past crimes and tragedies and how there must be a punishment. And that punishment is exile. Cecil explains that he can't allow Omni-Man to return, and if people knew that he was roaming around, it would be a disaster, and other heroes might actually come after him. Debbie doesn't expect to live there, but Cecil clarifies that he's not talking about her. But Nolan understands considering he could have gotten a lot worse, and Cecil tells him to consider this as a hero slap on the wrist. Now Cecil makes it clear and says that's not all, and he's going to need some type of rent and mentions the Viltromite base on the other side of the moon. Nolan makes it clear that he don't want no smoke and he ain't trying to confront them. And Cecil says that that's not it. He doesn't want them to confront him. He just wants them to keep an eye on them and be the first line of defense if they try anything. He doesn't give Nolan a chance in the matter and tells him to enjoy the place and to let him know if he needs anything, and then he dips out. Now, shortly after Cecil leaves, we see Nolan and Debbie share their little moment of peace with no idea for what's about to happen while Thragg old lame ass just stalks him from above like a true creep. Alright, now that was chapter 101. Let's dive in chapter 102 and watch these boys throw hands. Alright, now chapter 102 picks right up where chapter 101 left off, with Nolan and Debbie enjoying their new place while Thragg old hating ass floats in the background and quickly rains on Nolan's parade, starting with a sneak attack. Nolan notices poor Debbie about to hit the vacuum of space, and Sugar is hanging on for dear life, but Omni-Man hits Thragg with a nasty headbutt and goes to save his woman as she screams in fear. As Nolan protects Debbie, Thragg grabs his cape and slams him and Debbie to the ground. Omni-Man grabs about a foot to keep her from being sucked into the vacuum of space again as Thragg chokes him with his forearm. Nolan loses his grip on Debbie's leg and flies onto what looks like a wall on the back of a couch or something like that, and she hits it really hard and gasps for air. Nolan manages to wrestle Thragg into space away from Debbie and asking why is he attacking, knowing that they had a truce, damn near killing his woman. Thragg shows no remorse and tells him that she's no concern to him, which makes Nolan question him again like, bro, why are you attacking me if I pose no threat? And Thragg lets him know exactly why while catching his fist. Thragg says he'll do the honors of telling Nolan the truth before he kills him by telling him exactly who he is and where he really come from. Thragg explains Viltrum history as a paradise before Argall's death and how he had many heirs. Following the chaos of the Great Purge, the Viltrumites emerged as an elite race led by him, and he was made Grand Regent, and as Grand Regent he was tasked with the responsibility of finding Argall's heir, as he spent many years doing so until the Scourge virus hit and assumed that the heir was lost in the virus. He further explains his point about how he held the empire down in their dark times and even claimed to be a better ruler than Argal himself. He gave up on the search for the lost heir and felt that he earned his place as the rightful ruler, even if an heir did survive. But once he found out about Nolan, he was disgusted and couldn't hand his power over to someone who sided with Thetis and destroyed their home world, and admits he found all this out when Mark caught the Scourge virus. But Nolan punches Thragg right in his shit and tells him he doesn't care, and rightfully so, since his hating ass want to disturb this man's peace. Nolan tells Thragg that he doesn't want to be the Viltromite ruler and has no desire to overthrow him, but Thragg doesn't care. He just wants to kill him so no one else can find out about him. And he proceeds to beat the shit out of Omni-Man, giving that boy the business left and right in front of his old lady. And even tells him how outclassed he is and recommends that he just lay down and die while trying to slam him to the ground. But Nolan shows some fight and gives that boy a Rick James kick straight to his chest. And Thragg even acknowledges his tenacity, but quickly overpowers him and starts beating his ass some more and goes straight Killmonger on this man. "This your king? How you get Argal's blood?" And chokes the hell out of Omni-Man, but old Omni-Man ain't giving up so easy and hits Thragg with a nasty headbutt and tells him that his attack is pointless, which makes Thragg super hot and ready to end that boy once and for all. And Thragg continues putting belt to ass and tells Nolan that it was him who held the empire down and took their people farther than Argal ever could, and even managed to keep everything straight after the Scourge virus. He feels that his place is earned and doesn't care who or what Nolan is, and that he deserves straight death as he's about to land the finishing blow. General Creed manages to grab Thragg's arm as Thragg demands that he explain himself, and Nolan manages to sneak one last punch in as he lays there with one eye hanging out and shit. Thragg then pulls a lame-ass move and starts to play victim, claiming that Nolan tried to assassinate him, and questions why they would go against him as their regent. But Anissa ain't stupid. She asked Thragg if he found the blood of Argal, and Thragg quickly responded by saying that Nolan is weak and unworthy. And before he could finish his sentence, the other Viltrumites just start kicking his ass and wailing on him. They said they never followed Argal's strength, but they followed his wisdom, and how foolish they were to ever follow him. Anissa says that he would die for his betrayal and calls for his execution immediately, but Omni-Man's stupid ass yells from afar to stop and let him live, as the other Viltrumites bend a knee to a beat up ass Nolan with his eye hanging out. And by the way, this is one of my favorite panel shots. Right after that, we cut to Omni-Man giving his speech as a new Viltromite Emperor. He makes it quick and says that he's Argal's heir and that it was never his desire to lead, but he can't deny his birthright and will step up to his responsibilities. He also figures that some of them will see him as a traitor, but asks that they see things in a different light as he does, and tells them that the whole time that they've been focusing on conquering worlds, that they should have been focused on their own. He says Thragg was right to bring them to Earth and that it's time to start a new life and that he's here to welcome that change. During the time on Earth, they will rebuild their ranks and start a new dawn for the Empire, and everyone starts chilling and praising Nolan as he makes his exit to Hill, and Mark just sits there looking awkward as fuck. Later, we see Cecil dropping Mark off, and Mark thanks Cecil for bringing him to Nolan's inauguration. Eve then asks Mark if he's okay with everything, and Mark replies saying yes because his daddy is now in charge, but it feels kind of weird to him and even got him thinking that Nolan planned this all along. But Eve denies that thought real quick, and Mark even agrees. She then offers to cheer him up. But Mark says he's finding that he knows things will never be the same and reflects back to how things were before he even got his powers. And he realized that was before he even met Eve and tells her that he always wanted her to be there, which makes Eve start to glow with happiness. This leads to Mark starting to propose, in which Eve catches on to real quick. While he starts talking, she quickly makes a ring in which they both love. Mark asks a big question, and Eve says yes. And that's going to conclude it for this video covering chapters 101 to 102. And you see how old Nolan had became emperor. It damn sure wasn't pretty, but hey, here we are. And we're going to go ahead and cover some more stuff down the line in the future. But if you want more of this content and you like this content, it don't matter because you're going to get this content. Go ahead and give me a like and a subscribe. And I ain't going to hold y'all. Y'all enjoy y'all day or night. Saucy is out.